to go back and read it, but yeah, it took a few months to get there and to kind of be ready to do this. But this was part of my kind of unpacking meaning making process. How do I go from an 1,800-page PDF to something that I can create and visualize and try to tell a story with? And going along with that too, I reviewed the text messages that we had sent back and forth over the years and went through archives of photos that we had together. Highly, highly recommend. Take some time and read your text message history with someone who's important to you, even when they're still here. It's a very, very, it's a very emotional experience. Very, very cool thing to do. But yeah, as we think about how do we make a data set out of something in life that we want to express that didn't necessarily generate an obvious one, this is the next step I took. So from there, I built custom data sets very, very manually. I know that we love the way that Tableau can work with many, many different data sources, but again, an 1,800-page PDF of medical records, it's not quite ready to turn that into something that we can that we can work with. So I did a lot of typing. Things like MRIs and hospitalizations and kind of all the things that we ended up sharing on that journey. So I'll walk through the project kind of in a little bit more detail. And I apologize too, I should have said earlier, we're all very close together in the room here. I don't love formal presentations. I don't have this scripted, we're kind of figuring out as we go. So if you have questions along the way, please feel free to ask, raise your hand, and happy to talk a little bit more at any point here. But yeah, so what I wanted to do here is kind of come up with a theme for the project, and how could I organize this, and how could I help make meaning out of all of this with kind of some kind of defined structure. And so basically what I ended up starting with here is, we had 1,278 days together between when they found 7 tumors in his brain and when we had to say goodbye. And started with those lines. So these aren't 4 lines, these are 1,278 dots that all blend together to look like a line. And so everything in that data set is organized around those 1,278 days and kind of different ways to represent them. So yeah, again, not always the easiest thing to find themes here, but going through the records, I thought, okay, what are the types of things that we did? What were the beats along the way? And the scans, if you've ever had a loved one go through something like this, or if you have yourself, there's a constant rhythm of scans that become kind of a very defining part of the journey. We had a lot of radiation treatments at the beginning to keep everything calm, and they were thankfully very successful, which is why these lines are as long as they were. A lot of infusions along the way, immunotherapy, things like that. But also you notice the moments of peace here, the kind of long stretch in the second half of 2021 when things were actually great. Things were in remission. He was happy, healthy. We were traveling. Everything was good. But then also kind of the hospitalizations along the way that were kind of big markers for follow-up surgeries and things that were, starting to become a little bit more of a problem. And then, yeah, taking all those events together, overlapping them on those lines yet again, and seeing, yeah, this was it's simple. It's a line with some colored circles on top of it. It's not the most advanced visualization you're ever going to see, but I look at this and I remember the journey, and I can think about what was going on at these times in kind of a very different way. But I didn't want the project to be all about loss and all the sad, challenging things we experienced. I wanted to highlight the positives too, and the joy that we were able to share. And yeah, so a big highlight.
Smartphone connected.
My dad had brain tumors. The radiation caused something that ended up functioning a lot like dementia, and so there's definitely a lot lost along the way, but even when he was really having trouble communicating, he was able to very clearly say, "I love you," and keep communicating that message to everybody. So so I went back to the text messages, and are we good on the audio? Oh yeah. Sorry for the folks online. We're hearing a little bit of an echo in the room, but hopefully that's not coming through online. Um, cool. Yeah. So part of the experience too was um, yeah, looking through the 1600 texts that we shared back and forth, and yeah, this one's a bittersweet graph because a lot of joy and positivity there, but also the texts I sent are kind of in the gray background circles there. The texts he sent were in the orange, so you can see when that became a lot more challenging, in the last 6 months or so. Um, but also, yeah, the way we built this, the interactive version, you kind of mouse over the hearts and see what the text said, and which was also for me kind of a good way to go back and relive a lot of those positive moments. And again, another very, very simple image here. It's a timeline with some colors changing as different aspects of his life changed. So, yeah, born in 1951. Yeah, became a husband in 1985. I came along at the end of the 80s there. He became a grandfather in 2015 and again in 2018. And those are a lot of the big markers that we wanted to highlight. So that's the zoom in on the project. I'll talk a little bit more about it, but this was not a story that I wanted to try to tell either with kind of the most complicated graph I could come up with or the most intricate stuff. I thought simplicity fit what I was trying to do here. But yeah, I'll talk a little bit more about some of the design elements that I used and the choices that I made that hopefully, I know this doesn't look like a business dashboard, but some lessons to bring forward. So I paid a lot of attention to the graphical elements that I used in the dashboard, and so there's both marigolds and roses. I'm sorry, marigolds and poppies featured within the dashboard, and these were actually both drawn by my wife. Both of those designs are things that she had done, and so yeah, it was important to us to bring in that personal connection, bring in kind of some family created art to what we were sharing. The marigold motif in particular was important to us. We go down as a family every year to San Antonio for a Dia de Muertos, and obviously that symbolism is very very present and very connected to this part of the journey. So so I brought that into this work as well. And actually, if you go back a little bit, I was thinking about San Antonio when I did this, and a lot of these secondary colors are pulled out of the Spurs logo as well. So yeah, anyway, there's a lot of San Antonio in this one. But yeah, so a few of the key design choices that I chose to do for this project, simple chart types. I wanted something like this to be accessible not just to analytics experts, but to other people as well. This wasn't a story that I'm telling for the data community. This wasn't a story that I'm using to impress data scientists. It's something to reflect. Chose bold colors. I always like to choose bold colors anyway, but maximum contrast, maximum interest, minimal muddiness. I don't want to lose the message in, I can't tell the difference between this gray and that tan color. I want the colors to help clarify, not to be a distraction. The personal artistic elements, yeah, adding graphic features that were drawn by my wife, and really just bringing the personal components in as much as possible. I didn't want to use generic shapes and things I could find online when it was possible to take that extra layer, bring in the custom shapes, and do that as well. And finally, I wanted a non-dependence on interactivity. So I wanted this dashboard to work as a screenshot. I wanted it, if you open it up as an image, you can see it online. You don't have to be on Tableau Public. You don't have to be clicking filters or changing parameters to have it mean something to you. That's really a theme in a lot of my work, but especially something like this that's very much aimed at a different type of audience. That was a very important aspect for me. So like I said, I share a lot of work on Reddit, and didn't want to, I won't read these all out loud, but I did want to share kind of some of the feedback that I got from people. I guess I hoped that other people would find something they could connect with, and I did end up hearing from a lot of people very directly that it made them think of their own stories and resonated with them. And anyway, yeah, so it was ultimately a healthy experience. It took a few months to be ready to dive into this and to give this a try, but definitely uh, definitely positive in the end. So before we move on to kind of a little more Q&A, if y'all have any questions, kind of just a few closing lessons that I wanted to leave everyone with for doing work with personal data like this. Some of these might seem a little bit obvious, especially if you've been doing this for a while, but I do think it's worth re-emphasizing. First one being, try to remember the humans behind the numbers. I feel like across industries, roles, really whatever we're doing, there's going to be a human action behind it, and there's going to be a human story behind it. I spent the first almost decade of my career working with education data. So every day there are very, very clear, obvious emotional stories behind the things we're working with. But even, you know, if we're in finance, there are human stories there. There may be buried a little bit, you know, behind some different layers that are not as apparent to us. But, you know, ultimately we're generally working with things that have a lot of humanity behind them. I'd say handle sensitive data with care, and that includes care for yourself. So one thing I see, you know, not just in the Tableau community, but in general, when people are kind of doing data science online or, you know, kind of sharing projects, building portfolios, doing stuff on GitHub, whatever, you know, there a lot of sensitive data about highly emotional and charged topics can be very interesting to work with. But I think it's important to treat it with respect for the people involved, for the families, the individuals, everybody that might have been touched by what's going on. You know, we've seen a lot of data visualization work around things like gun violence or, you know, different healthcare disparities and things like that. And don't want to say that people shouldn't work in those areas, but I do think it requires an extra level of attention and thoughtfulness, as well as care for yourself. When I worked in education, you know, oftentimes the data we worked with was very, very challenging, telling some very, very hard stories. And you have to take care of yourself to make sure you can show up every day for the people who care about you. Another important one to me, do something because you want to, not for the validation. It's fun to get things like Visits of the Day, Information is Beautiful awards, like all these things that people are able to aspire to in the community. It's very cool. I entered this project in the Iron Viz feeder competition for last year. And in retrospect, I wish I hadn't, because I think this was kind of a very personal thing, a healing experience, something that I wanted to work through myself. I probably shouldn't have attached it to a competition. I think that there are some boundaries there that everyone can choose their own. But yeah, I would say if you're going to dig into highly emotional work and you're wondering if a certain type of validation is going to come along the way, that's probably not the best way to go on that journey. And finally, have fun when you can. And if you're not having fun, it's okay to stop. I know it's pretty nerdy, but you know, I have a blast making graphs in my free time about things that I'm curious about. But I had to stop for a while. And I've seen lots of amazing people in this community have to stop for a while for a variety of reasons. And that's okay. You know, people come back. We're all still here. And it's okay to do that. So yeah, so this is my little contact info slide here, as well as just one of my favorite childhood pictures I wanted to share as a capper on this one too. But yeah, happy to kind of take any questions, reflections about anything here. Talk about screen printing if you want to. I'm more than happy to chat about whatever. But one more thing I'll mention too. I brought kind of a pile of stuff here, some t-shirts and some prints that we've made. These are all like different tests of different designs we've done over the years. They're perfectly good shirts. But yeah, so a couple data themed designs here. Yeah, some posters. This was one of my Tableau projects that I decided to screen print as well. So yeah, I used Python to analyze script data from the office, see who was talking when, and so on. So anyway, I know it can be a little bit of a heavier topic, so I always like to incentivize that with giveaways too. So if you ask a question, you need to come up and pick whatever you want. But there's also enough stuff here for everybody in the room. So yeah, so thanks for having me. Thanks for the folks who are tuning in online, and yeah, happy to take any questions. Yeah.
All right. I have a speakerphone here. If anybody in the room wants to ask a question, I didn't see any questions asked online, but you're you're welcome to come off mute and ask your question. If you'd
Yep.
like to do that,
Got one
go
on
ahead,
Zoom, yeah.
John.
This is awesome. So thank you for the presentation. And just when you were starting out at the beginning, I mean, there's so much that you're coming through. From your viewpoint, do you try to, almost come up with like a roadmap of what you want to do up front, or do you try to get in there first and then kind of figure out the direction that you want to go as you're kind of in the data?
Yeah, I would say for this project, it was more the latter. I think, sometimes I'll come into something saying, okay, I want to do a project about this, and I bet I can find data to fit it. But this one, like, definitely took some, I didn't even really know what was going to be there until I had a chance to dive in. So yeah, definitely the latter, but that's probably the reverse of how I would usually work. But yeah.
Just one, for somebody that when you're starting out, do you have any suggestions on how to kind of get past writer's block and what you're trying to do visualization on? Like, what's the
Yeah,
good suggestion?
absolutely. So yeah, so the question, I'll repeat online in case it didn't come through. If you're experiencing writer's block or just getting started, with visualization, what are some good ways to work through that? I do feel like it's a little bit of a cliche answer, but I would say, imitation, imitation, imitation. Find something you like and figure out how to put your own spin on it. I think as long as you kind of credit the people who inspired you and are open about that, everybody's very, very open to that. I've seen people take tons of my projects, like download them as a foundation, swap in some different data, do something a little bit different with it. And like, I think tons of people get started that way. I probably got started that way too. Like, yeah, it was definitely, find something you like, but you wish was slightly different, try it, make it slightly different. And then I think kind of the independence grows from there. I think for me, I probably didn't imitate Tableau projects as much when I started, but I definitely would like find things I liked in books or newspapers or whatever. So definitely a lot of like, I don't know, what do they say? Like copy like an artist, but like definitely a lot of, because I've also probably been, asked a lot of over the years, like how do you develop a style or something like that. And like, I don't think a lot of, there are exceptions. There are definitely like a few people I can think of who immediately had a style, but like, yeah, I think you learn by practicing. And I think imitation with proper credit and acknowledgement is like a very good way to start. Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So the question was like, we're reflecting a little bit more on doing an in-person training with Edward Tufte as kind of a way to kick off my data visualization journey. So I'll say for someone kind of coming out of academia and kind of being used to all the kind of ugly black and white graphs in academic journals and all that, it was like mind blowing to go and kind of see all this stuff. And I don't know if he still does the trainings, but back then when you did the training, you got a stack of all 4 of his books too. And I remember like on the train back from Chicago, I was just like paging through these things in like disbelief, like, oh my goodness, like I can't believe I didn't know all this. Like this is so cool and interesting. So when I saw him, I'll say I've heard from some people who didn't love the training. I did really love the training. It was really impactful for me. And I think, but yeah, he also back then, his trainings would often usually feature like a long rant about how much he hated PowerPoint or like similar things, like hours of content about like how silly PowerPoint was, which I very much took to heart. And I actually went and defended my dissertation proposal without slides because I was like, I'm going to show that you can do this. And so then, yeah. But yeah, so yeah, I mean, very cool experience. I'll say like when I mentioned that, his approach isn't always everybody's favorite, it is a lot of tearing down. It is a lot of, looking at things and saying, wow, look how bad this is. Look how silly the choices they made were. And, I do think and hope as a community, we've evolved to be, more positive and constructive about things. But at the same time, yeah, it was transformative to my work. And I mean, I was working in Tableau for probably 4 or 5 years before I was ever doing anything on server, deploying live dashboards. Because working in public schools, we didn't have the resources to do that. So I was building dashboards and sending package workbooks to our executive team, and they were whining to me all the time about how they had forgotten to update Tableau Reader. If anybody was doing this back in the day, but but yeah, I would say like I took those design principles of, the data to ink ratio and avoiding chart junk and all of that, internalized it very quickly. And, even now when I'm doing things that are kind of a little more ornamental sometimes, I think kind of I did really internalize a lot of that and bring it forward. So yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think, well, I think I'm going to use like another art cliche. But like I feel like you have to, learn the rules to break them. And so I would say, if you're just getting started, if you're practicing, I would say, yeah, you don't want those black boxes everywhere. You don't want unnecessary shading and, ornamental stuff that is completely distracting from the point that you're trying to make. And so I would say like a lot of the first projects I made were very, very stripped down and minimalistic. Like, how can I avoid the grid lines? Do I even need an axis here? And I do think that's a healthy place to start, and then kind of build back up from there. And then, eventually you end up with a project like this that, sorry, it's scrolling slower than, but, there's some ornamental stuff here. There are marigolds that are not helping tell the actual story. But at the same time, like, I feel like, anyway, spending a while trying the really, really minimal stuff and then starting to add things back in bit by bit and seeing, okay, have I lost the message if I do this? Am I confusing my users if I add this thing? And a lot of the time the answer to that is going to be no. So yeah, I think I like to have as much data as possible relative to the ink, unless the extra ink is going to get people engaged in a way that they wouldn't have otherwise either, because like a creative header or a nice layout or design, a little bit of ornamentation, might bring people in who wouldn't look otherwise. So yeah.
I know it's also not that I'm trying going through this. I wonder if there's an opportunity to share this with others who are going through melanoma.
Yeah.
I don't know what that looks like.
Yeah.
It's so beautifully done and made by artwork.
Yeah, no, thank you. No, I really appreciate that. Yeah, I'm always open to share and talk with people. I think too, something I've learned over the past, I guess, probably 6 or 7 months of being kind of a little more open about it too, is like when you're open about a journey like this, people want to come talk about it too. And which is also something you have to be ready for. And it's its own part of the journey, but I think it's really important. I have the project online. It's on, all my social media accounts. So yeah, I'm always happy to share it with people if they're interested. But yeah. Yeah.
I want to thank you again. It's very beautiful.
Thank you.
Very beautiful. I mean, you were speaking about what I think I've been the last 2 years of my job. So I'm still newer in terms of incorporating other programs.
Sure. Yeah.
Programs to use for some of the graphics.
Yeah, absolutely. So I do end up doing a lot of layout work in Figma. And so I'll bring in kind of background images, or, if there's a whole part of the dashboard that I know like doesn't need to have interactivity, or it's just like purely decoration, I'll probably tend to make the image over there and then bring it in, or Photoshop. Both work fine, but Figma is largely free. You can do a lot with Figma for free, and Photoshop is very much not free. So yeah. But yeah, those are the big compliments. We've done some stuff in Procreate too, like kind of on the iPad, and brought it in from there. But I would say, yeah, Figma is probably my biggest compliment. See, I have it open now too, but yeah, yeah, yeah. So. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, no, I think that's definitely the case. And yeah, gosh, I mean, the education it's an industry where, I mean, industry is not the right word, but like it's a space where people don't think of there being big data, but like there absolutely is big data, particularly because like I worked in districts with 30,000 or more students, and when you consider, hey, we have attendance records every period and how many assignments are coming in, it very quickly, it's not on the scale of a Fortune 100 company or anything, but like you very quickly, it gets very big very quickly. But you have those reminders all the time to bring it back down to the individuals. And I mean, honestly, too, it's probably just good practice to check outliers anyway in your data sets. And so like for me, for years, that process of like, what is this weird thing in my data set would involve going into a student information system and pulling up a record to see what happened. And then, you have a face staring back at you and history. And yeah, it's, I think all the data work is very personal for me, just because that's kind of where it started. So yeah. Please come take stuff, by the way, too, if you want to. Like it's here for you to take. But yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Oh yeah, I'm sorry. I should know the name off the top of my head too, but like I found an app that just kind of extracts all your text to CSV in like a specific conversation. So yeah, it was a MacBook app, and I don't know. Plug in your phone and you say, I want this thread in a CSV, and like it was actually super easy. So yeah. Cool. All right. Thanks, everyone. Cool. All right. Thanks. Thanks, everybody. Absolutely. No, thanks for having me. A pleasure. Yeah, but you know what? Second floor, seal matrix, picking up. Somebody go ahead, open the tab. I have to pack up, but I don't want you. Oh, yeah, I'll do that here. Yeah. Pull out some things. So, yeah, I can bring